Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session, we are going to be doing an Ask Temporal. We have an Ask Temporal, and our asker, after talking about the video on risk, says, I sometimes feel like I'm the victim of Murphy's Law because seemingly anything that can go wrong seems to go wrong in my business ventures. I know that I'm young and that I'll have time to rebound from my losses, but part of me is upset that many of the people I was close to just 3 years ago are now in 7, 8 figure territory, while I have essentially stagnated. I'm in college and I'm struggling to decide whether to invest my time starting a new business venture or create better social life. Do you have any advice for maintaining the two? Do you have any advice to help overcoming feelings of jealousy, envy towards my friends because they've succeeded where I've failed? So that was the initial bit that I had, and I asked some follow up questions. And I'm not going to read the whole response to the follow up questions, but the important bits that we got out of that were that our asker has had some success in crypto and social media with their business ventures in the past. Not like overwhelming, amazing, out of this world, they're now a billionaire, but some success there. They are a mechanical engineering major. They're at a party school that's not terribly prestigious. They are going for their 5th year to get an MBA, and they want to build a close circle of friends that they can trust while socializing. A significant other would be nice, but isn't high on the list right now. And they went to an all boys high school. We also would get in there that there's potentially an interest in doing some MMA before pursuing the dating scene. That's fine. You can do MMA before pursuing the dating scene. You should work on your body, but don't leave opportunities that are on the table there because you feel like, oh no, I have to do this first. If opportunities are in front of you, take them. And then historically paid for things so people would hang out, which so people would do things with you when they were so busy and broke. Really make sure you save that for people that you're already good friends with. That can be okay when it's people that you already know value you, have already shown that they want to spend time with you, but really be careful with that one, especially if you don't feel 100% financially stable yourself. So what I want to get into here is sort of those main two questions. And as we're looking at those main two questions, and we'll use the additional information, but those main questions are, hey, my friends are leaving me behind with their success. How do I overcome that jealousy? And in college, is it better to invest that time, that second job effectively, in building a job, either working or building a job, or a social life? Because obviously that first full-time job is being a student itself, but you've still got to figure out how are you going to use the rest of your time there. So we'll start with the jealousy thing. And what I'm going to say there is good. It's good that your circle of friends, or at least your usual circle of friends, are more successful than you. There's a lot to be said for when you are successful. How shall I say this? There's a lot to be said for when you hang out with people that do well at something, you become more like those people that do well at that thing. If you are not doing well in your classes, let's say you're an average student and you start hanging out with the people who are doing really well in their classes, you're going to pick up some of their habits. They're just going to pass around knowledge. You're going to see how they operate, and it's really hard to not start performing a little better. Same thing is true of most things in life. If you're like an average athlete, but you're on the team and you hang out with the person who's the superstar on the team and the captain of the team, and you hang out in that smaller group, you're going to find that they're talking shop more, they're thinking about it more, they're getting better. Same thing when I'm hanging out with other Overwatch coaches. It's very hard to not kind of continue to just get better when you're hanging out with the best. Like when you're in that stronger environment, you'd actually like to, if you're trying to get maximum improvement, you would like to be sort of the person who's at the back of the pack trying desperately not to fall behind. That's actually one of the places that you can get the most improvement. Now, it can be more comfortable to be the big fish in a little pond, but if you're actually like just able to hang in that pond as a smaller fish, that is the place where you get the most improvement. And some of the success that they've found, assuming it wasn't all just luck based, is going to rub off on you. And no, I don't mean their luck is going to rub off on you. I mean, they're going to tell you. Now, it depends on the industry, but just as they're talking shop, just as they're chatting about things, it doesn't have to be like a formal meeting of, hey, tell me exactly how you did this all the time, but just how conversations will come up because you guys are in similar spaces or because they're more successful. It'll be like, oh, how do more successful people do their taxes? Oh, they do those differently than I do my taxes. Oh, you start to learn things and then you find your way in there. Or, oh, how do YouTubers who are bigger handle their editing? Oh, they do it like this. And it's not like they're going to sit down and teach you how to do it. Sometimes they will, don't abuse that. But what you're going to find is, hey, it's hard when you're running in circles that are more successful than yourself to not pick some of that up. So that is good to some degree. Now, it doesn't necessarily help you feeling jealous, but a little bit of jealousy can be good. A little bit of jealousy can be good as long as you're not letting it eat at you, because it also serves as motivation there. So like a little jealousy, healthy, can help drive you. Don't let it poison the friendship. So those are like two of the things that I would say there. But in terms of still being friends with them and like, wait, how do you be friends with them and not just talk shop all the time? Or how do you be friends with them and not feel like, oh, this is terrible? Well, what you have to do is there are situations in which you will want to cut them out as a friend, get rid of them, just walk away. Those are mostly going to happen if they start wielding their success over you, or start bragging about how successful they are, or start pressuring you to go do things with them that are expensive that you can't really keep up with. And an example of that would be, hey, if I want to go play volleyball, I can go play volleyball. I can drive down, go play some volleyball, and I can go play on a team, and I'm going to have on my team someone who's a handyman, and I'm going to have on my team someone who's a brain surgeon. Great, fantastic. Doesn't matter. We can be friends. We can play volleyball together. That is perfectly fine. We are doing something that all of us can afford to do, that we can do. We can enjoy each other's companies. We can have beers afterwards. That is perfectly fine, and everyone is happy. We're probably not all gonna head over to Lake Tahoe together or something like that, though, because that becomes a little more awkward unless we're all already really good friends, and those of us that make more money want to go, oh yeah, it's fine, I'll pay for the place, or I'll pay a greater share than normal for the place that we want to stay for 2 weeks, whatever the case is. That becomes awkward, and that can make the people who are less financially able not really feel good. So like, you want to look at this, and when you're hanging out with your friends who are more financially successful than you, what you want to do is you want to go, hey, cut them out immediately if they're wielding it or trying to remind you of how successful they are all the time, and it just doesn't feel good like that. But also find things to do that aren't beyond your budget, that don't make you feel like you're having to spend a bunch of money to hang out, but also don't make you feel indebted to them when you want to spend time with them. Don't do things that make you feel inferior. That said, if you've been good friends for a while, if they want to go, hey, let's go do this thing, they're willing to pay more for it. If you find you're okay with that, you can go with it for a while. But if you're not having a good time, stop it, don't do it, whatever. So that would sort of be my advice around the jealousy thing. And for those of you who have comments, chats, things like that, you know the drill in these extemporals. I will catch up on you on the end and we can further discuss. The other big topic that you had was, in college, do you invest more time in a new business or create a better social life? Because you've got those classes as one thing to work on, and then you have some amount of time left over. And do you put it over in this bucket? Do you put it over in this bucket? Do you split it between the buckets? I know you feel like you missed out on some opportunities when you took a step back from business, from making money to spend time socializing, and you missed out on other things. Well, for most people, my advice actually would be pretty hard in the business direction. When you are, how do I want to put this? Working hard when you're young is better. You've got more time, you have more energy, and you're expected, especially when you're in college, to pay for less things, to support for less things, to go do less things. Like, in terms of, it's not as expensive, it works well, you can skimp on costs, you can work pretty hard because you have the energy, you have your health. Some might be saying you're spending your health, but that's in some ways worth it, because again, the sooner that you can get your hands on money, the sooner your money can do the heavy lifting for you in terms of, hey, your money growing, be that in one type of investment or another, be that in a business, be that in stock investments, be that in real estate, be that in crypto, which is something you're going with here. Like, the earlier you can get a hold of that, the better that works, and you want to go for that when you have more energy and when you have more time left in your life for time in the market to do work for you. So that is kind of what my advice for most people would be. Yours is a little bit different because you went to an all boys high school, which means you haven't really interacted that much with women, and this is your last good chance to do so in some ways. It's not as good of a chance as it used to be because things have gotten worse in that regard. It's better in the sense of there's more women than men in colleges now, so like that's good. You have more opportunities to interact with women. There are more women in your classes. Unfortunately, it's a little dangerous in the it's more than a little dangerous. It's even more dangerous in the college world than it is in the work world in a lot of ways. The modern interpretations of Title IX are incredibly dangerous. We've seen that the courts every single month are turning over, and have been for years, every single month are turning over decisions that come out of the mock courts, effectively, that the schools have set up to decide whether, I'll say this once, sexual assault has happened or not, and that's probably the only time I can say it in this video, because these schools are notoriously terrible at it, and they do not support any level of due process. There are too many mattress girls out there, and it is dangerous, and courts are overturning those things heavily. That said, that doesn't help you, because you still end up in, not getting your degree, like, oh, this happened and maybe you got money back, that sort of thing, and you don't want the whole headache of court battles. That said, again, advice for most people would be, hey, that's not a great place to do some of that stuff, especially with any level of alcohol involved. You really are better off finding, dating, whatever, outside of the school. That might be, hey, in the local town, don't go to your school, go to a different school, whatever. But you're a little bit different. You can't really afford to opt out of socializing with the fair gender as much as most people potentially could, because you missed out on getting to do that in high school. And that's not like, oh, you missed, like, oh, you didn't do this, so you have to do this, but you do need to build up some comfort. And again, you should be getting that to some degree in your classes, but you're also going to want to do that in somewhat more social settings. So here's what I would say. Because we've got to balance these things. When you feel like working, please work. When the spirit of work calls you, you should absolutely do work. You should not let your friends pull you out of doing work. You should not let, really anything pull you out of doing work. When the spirit of, hey, I feel productive hits you, go do work. Go work on your business. Maybe that's something that's going to work for you, and that is very, very important. If you are in a relationship with someone or dating someone and they're like, hey, spend time with me, blah, 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 unless you've previously been pretending that you're busy working when you're not, like, do not tolerate any level of you're in the zone, you're working, you're feeling productive, and people are trying to pull you out of it. Like, when you want to work, you work. But like I said, you are going to have to spend some time socializing. This is sort of your last good chance. So my rule for you is going to be, that's fine, do some socializing, build up your friend circle, but no alcohol with mixed company. I believe you're in a pretty late year and you're probably old enough to legally drink, which is great. That's good. But no alcohol with mixed company. That is like the fastest way to get towards danger in terms of, oh, well, it was pressured, it was coercion, etc. And remember, this is not the normal criminal justice system that you're worried about. This is the U.S. school pretend justice system that you're worried about, that will destroy you, that will not allow you to have proper representation, will have both the investigator and the prosecutor be the same time, will have an advocate for the accuser but not for the accused. It is a joke of a system, and the courts absolutely laugh at it, and that's why they constantly get overturned. But the schools, again, have correctly decided that, well, correctly in the sense of covering their own butts, have decided that it makes way, way more sense to make people feel like, oh, the schools are safe, nothing bad happens, happens here, and we will always do this rather than to have due process, because they feel that is better for their marketing, for their holding on to people, whatever. They've decided that, and financially, unfortunately, they're probably right, because the legal repercussions for bad things happened are a lot bigger in terms of sympathy that juries would have, monetary awards, etc., from the school to the victim, than for bad things that happen in the bedroom compared to the monetary awards for, hey, you unfairly kicked someone out of school, even if they repeatedly have to pay those awards. So we understand why they do it, but it doesn't create a good place for you to do dating. That said, again, you're going to have to do some. So your rule is going to be, don't pass on opportunities that are there, but no alcohol in mixed company. If you really need to do alcohol in mixed company, that's going to have to happen when you're doing that with people that aren't from your school. And I'm serious about that. That is how you protect yourself. It's not perfect, but hey. And again, if it's with your school, it should really be talking about actual dating here, not just hooking up. If you're looking just to hook up, you can try the apps. They're not going to be particularly good for you, trust me, especially because you very likely don't have much game. And also go off your school for that anyways. Even if it's someone from a different school, your system is way cleaner for that. But you are going to have to spend some time, and you do want to spend some time actually socializing, actually building that friend network, and that is going to be worth doing while you are at school to a limited degree. Not like, oh, you're going to spend 50% of your free time socializing, but you're going to be like, hey, I can spend 20-30% of my time socializing, and that is more than I would recommend for your free time socializing. That's outside of the school and the schoolwork itself. I'm talking about the division of your time that is left, that is available beyond the schoolwork itself. So working on your business, doing work, that is good, and then you've got some time that should still be the majority, but you've got some time to put into socializing. And part of how we come to that is because, how do I want to put this? Your school is not going to be good for networking. If your school was a more prestigious school, you could go, hey, I want to justify spending more time on this because the people that you're networking, that you're hanging out with, are future business prospects. They're potentially going to be sales that you get in the future or job opportunities that you get in the future, and they're really important. There's two reasons that that's not terribly important for you. One is you're not going to a prestigious school, and the value of the networking falls off hard. You'll still get some value for networking. Knowing people is always going to be important, but you'll get much, much less value from networking as soon as you've left the top few schools. As soon as you've left the Ivy League and then just outside of the Ivy League, your value of networking is going to tank pretty hard from what you're going to get in terms of setting yourself up there. The other reason it's less important for you is you're going into engineering. Engineering is simply a more in-demand job than someone who was in social sciences, other things like that. Someone who's in things that are much, much, much less in demand. That does not mean that finding a job will be incredibly easy, especially because your school is not terribly prestigious. But it does mean that, hey, you're trading a little more on, I can do the actual work, I can put my nose down and grind, much more so than the people who are going, hey, there's 300 for every application, and it really comes down to the networking for them. For you, do the work well. Some level of networking, some level of politicking is always going to be necessary. That's just reality. I'm sorry. But you have to play a lot less of that game because you're doing the hard work of getting a STEM degree, an engineering degree specifically, and that is going to help out there. So again, because you are, looking at these things of, hey, you're getting a STEM degree, you're not at a prestigious school, you went to an all-boys high school, I would say, yeah, you're going to want to spend and you want to build out that circle of friends. You do want to spend some time socializing, but do not go like, oh, I'm going to spend half of my free time socializing or 80% of my free time socializing. I would still hard focus on, hey, what can you do in terms of your business ideas there? If, it's not 80-20, if it's closer to 60-40, sure, you can live with that. Ultimately, you can do whatever you want. I'm just some guy on the internet who's saying, hey, this is what I would recommend. But again, I am not your financial advisor. I am not your lawyer. I am not your doctor. I am not your, we can keep going here in terms of ultimately, I'm not going to accept any liability for this. But hey, You could look at this and go, this is what I would recommend. I'm a little older than you. I've been through a bit more than you. I've seen a bit more than you of the world here. So that's really where I'd go with this. And maybe I'll get some blowback for this one. Maybe I won't. Let's go ahead and catch up on chat. Because, again, to put things in perspective here, try not to be too jealous. Final takeaways, try not to be too jealous. Friends group being more successful than you is actually good. They'll help pull you up, not because they're actually going to be like, oh, here's a lifeline, but they can't help but pull you up. Just in being around them is going to be helpful. Don't do things that make you feel bad about spending time with them. Do things that you all enjoy that are within everyone's budget range, etc. Don't let yourself feel like you're spending too much time. Do some level of socializing. That is going to be helpful for you, but try to keep that as definitely less than half of what you're doing with your free time. And again, for most people, I'd say significantly less than half there. You get a pass to do a bit more of this, specifically because you are again coming from that all boys high school background there. Okay, let's take a look here. Okay, why would you be jealous of your friend's success? I'd suggest therapy. You should not judge yourself by the accomplishments of your friends. That's true. You don't need to judge yourself by the accomplishments of your friends. And again, everyone's perfectly happy when you're hanging out together and you're doing activities that all of you can afford to be doing. It really doesn't matter that much. Like, everyone is in charge of getting through their own life mostly on their own. And if you're doing so, if you're not being a drag on other people, most people are going to be cool with you. And if they're not cool with you, you don't want to spend time with them anyway. McDonald says, because of depression episodes, I repeated year twice on uni, and it feels pretty bad, like I failed in life and everyone is better, but I'm graduating on Monday, and just a bit later in life, no one cares. No one cares when you graduate uni. Like, if you graduate high school slower than normal or get held back in K-12, people potentially care about that. No one cares what year someone is in uni. There's a reason that years effectively break down in university. It becomes you're this. There is like freshman, sophomore, junior. Those aren't things in uni. It's you're a college student. Unspecified college student. Part of that is because we have majors like engineering that frequently take 5 years. Part of that is because people go through at different paces. You have a lot of people who are working full time while going to uni, and sometimes that causes them to get through their classes a lot slower. But again, no one really cares because everyone's in different situations, and as long as you're getting through your life, hey, that's cool. Being a big fish in a pond is ultimately big fish in a small pond is ultimately stagnating. It can be. It can be. It can also be pretty comfortable. They commit fraud on their taxes, get a better pond. ah, okay. Don't avoid taxes. Agreed. Do your taxes. Got to do your work. How do you summon the spirit of work? Right? Right? If we could all just channel the spirit of work all the time, that would be great. But sometimes you do get inspired to go do work. You have an idea or you feel some drive, you feel some motivation. Do work during those times. Like, seriously, do work during those times. You don't know how long that's going to last, and you can do some really good work during those times. You're going to have to work a lot of the time when you don't feel the spirit of work, by the way. Like, you're going to just have to, but it's so much more enjoyable when you do. Can you exercise the spirit of work from people who do better to make them worse than do better yourself so you can cheat success? Wouldn't that be interesting? Maybe we need to start hiring exorcists. Uh-huh. Magdalena says, bit of a rant, but leftist online community is rather toxic with approach to mental health. They have it so normalized that on that one hand, some really toxic approach is valid, especially when it's coping. Yeah, there's some concerns around that. I mean, there's a lot of armchair things going on here. There's a lot of you'll see universities again as a place that are taking this pretty weird, and they've gone super into safe spaces and trigger words, which is sort of the opposite of what you want to do when someone's struggling with something. You want to sort of gradually expose them to more and more of it to kind of desensitize them to it, get them more comfortable with it, because they're going to have to run into it in real life, or maybe they won't. I mean, we've seen some places where enough people have gotten out of college that went through college when those things were in place that they've been able to successfully demand those things in the workplace. So who really knows? Maybe they had it right based on the fact that they were successful. Uh-huh. Super Kashaki says, my advice: be high 24 hours per day and write a novel equals success. Okay, okay. Yes, everything is valid. I started hating this word. If it helps, just say everything is awesome. Everything is great. Where you are part of a team, everything is awesome. Law is 5 years. That's true. That's true. Well, law is 5 years, but it depends how you do it. I mean, here at least in the U.S., you'd still go get an undergraduate, and then you'd actually go to law school. And law would be generally you're looking at like 3 years for that if memory serves. So that's total 7, but 3 specialized, 4 undergrad. So bit different over here. But yeah, that's really going to be the takeaway. Don't need this to be a terribly long one. I think we've covered it here. Try not to be too jealous of your friends. Do things with them that you can all afford to do. Be happy that they're successful because A, they're your friends, but B, you're going to get pulled up just by being around them. I'm not saying specifically ask them for work, specifically ask them to send stuff your way. I'm saying hanging out with them, you guys are going to not help but be able to talk shop sometimes. And don't use them as your like, hey, you let me run this by you, let me run this by you. Hey, tell me how to do this. Don't make the whole friendship based on that. But some of that is going to happen and they'll be happy to do it because you're friends. And again, if you're feeling too uncomfortable, even after you've even after you've adjusted what you're doing together to be stuff that you can all afford, or if they're lording over the fact that they're so successful to you, cut them out of your life and get new friends. And then work on your business. Work on your business. If it doesn't work, that's life. You are young. You do still have time, as you recognize, to continue on the next one to do more here. Like, that is going to be helpful. But you do want to spend some time socializing, but be careful in how you do so. Be careful in how you do so, especially around the alcohol, not just when you're on campus, but when you're dealing with other people that are also from your campus and you're bound together by the same guidelines, that sort of thing. Okay, then I think that's going to do it. If you guys are enjoying, please do drop a like. If you have your own questions, you can throw them up in Ask Temporal, or you can DM me directly. If you DM me directly, or if you put them in the paid version of Ask Temporal, I will ask you rates. I will ask you, we will talk and we will discuss what rate is going to look like for that. If you, just hoping for a freebie, you can throw it in the freebie section in the Discord, and maybe I'll pick that one up. But that is going to do it. I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks.